back to the channel, and in today's video we are talking about the Urban Luxe category of the British Fashion Awards. So if you're unaware, every year the British Fashion Council has an award show to celebrate the work of designers over the year. So there are normally many different categories, from emerging talent for menswear to emerging talent for womenswear to urban luxe to model of the year. So I've just chosen a category out of one of those that I really wanted to focus on. Now, the reason I wanted to cover the Urban Luxe category is this category always confuses me. Till now, I don't actually know exactly what Urban Luxe means, and every time in the Urban Luxe category, every year, there's no uniformity or there's no trend that you can see, okay, this is what Urban Luxe means. The brands are always really different. So in this video, I'm going to talk about all the brands that are in this Urban Luxe category, what they achieved this year, what they did, and basically just talk about the brands in general, really. So the nominees for this year's award were Moncler Genius, Serre, Martine Rose, Alyx, and Fenty. But before I continue, you can follow me on Instagram at Fashion Roadman, and if you want to support this channel financially, then the link to my Patreon is in the description below, so you can definitely check that out. Now, the first person we are talking about is Martine Rose. Now, Martine Rose is a French fashion designer, and she's very well known for her sustainable approach to design and fashion design, and she's also known for her radical approach to fashion design. She's held design roles at brands such as Alexander McQueen, Dior, Maison Margiela, and Balenciaga. So of course, she's had a crazy amount of experience before going into starting her own brand. But I think what really put her on the map and what made more eyes see her work is when she won the LVMH prize in 2017. And since then, she's just grown and she's gone leaps and bounds since then. So I have some notes here, and her brand is actually divided into sections. So there was a green section that focused on upcycled garments. Then there's a white section that was focused on easy everyday garments. Then there was a red section for kind of like your more red carpet couture looks. And then there was a gold section that was more your artisanal day wear, like including stuff like tailoring and stuff like that. There's a misconception that sustainable clothing is cheap or it's not made well, but when you look at people like Martine Rose and many other designers I can mention, that's just not the case. Now, her first collection of this year was the Fall Winter 2019 collection, and the title of this collection was called Radiation. And the inspiration for this collection, as Martine Rose has said herself, was actually kind of like what would happen or what it would look like after an apocalypse. So yeah, going back to how I said she's a radical designer, and yeah, her ideas are just radical, they're crazy. Now, the first thing to talk about in this collection is definitely the set, because when you think of after an apocalypse, if you watch any apocalypse movie, and people are always in a cellar, kind of like in a dungeon. So I liked how even the temperature of the set was really cold. It looked like a dungeon, like a dingy underground place with neon lights, and it just looked like chaos. And that actually fits in perfectly with the theme of the collection. Not many times, a lot of brands, they kind of pick themes that just look generically nice, but they don't actually tie into the theme or the inspiration of a collection. So I do appreciate the attention to detail in every single aspect of what Martine Rose does. Now, the first four looks were actually a tribute to the late Karl Lagerfeld, and Martine Rose was very fond of Karl Lagerfeld. He was one of the reasons she won the LVMH prize in 2017, so she had to pay tribute. And obviously, the late Karl Lagerfeld, he died just before she released that collection, so that was her way of paying tribute to Karl Lagerfeld. Now, looking at the aspects of this collection, first of all, talking about accessories, there are a lot of upcycled accessories. Like I said, she's very focused on sustainability, so you could see a lot of microchip earrings and earrings made of shells and all those type of things. But what I also like is it kind of ties into this collection as well, because if there's an apocalypse and you still want to look good, you have to find whatever you can and then kind of use that to make clothing or make accessories. So I'm not sure if she meant for it to tie into the theme, but it kind of does. Also, the shoes are recycled, and then if you look at the models, I noticed on their nails, they had some crazy stuff like coins and upcycled shells and stuff, and I've never seen stuff like that. I thought that was quite creative. Of course, in this collection, we saw Marine Serre's bestseller and what everyone loves Marine Serre for, and that is the ball bag. In this collection, we actually saw the ball bag featuring a upcycled and recycled chain that was used as the strap of the bag, obviously. But yeah, if you're unaware about Marine Serre, one of her bestsellers and things that people really, when they think of Marine Serre, they think of her logo, the moon logo, and then they think of the ball bag. So that's like Marine Serre. In this collection, I also saw breathing masks, and obviously this ties into the theme. After an apocalypse, you don't know what could have happened to the air. You need a breathing mask. And it was also in collaboration with, I'm not sure what specific brand, but I know it's a brand that has something to do with, they make stuff like breathing masks and technical things like that. So actually, that was quite cool that there's actually some functionality in the breathing mask, and it also ties into the theme of the collection. I thought that was quite cool. Continuing this theme of recycled clothing and, you know, chaotic design, there was a lot of faux fur. There were old jeans that were actually recut and then dyed, and I watched the video where she was talking about it, and apparently this was a really difficult process. She also said that in this collection there were these skin type pieces, and Marine Serre wanted to portray kind of like skin mutation, and that's why the colors of these type pieces kind of look close to what the color of the skin is. I thought this was quite creative to make, you know, kind of like a tight fitting piece that could represent skin mutation, because obviously after an apocalypse, once again, we don't know what exactly in a realistic way that would be, so your creativity can run wild with things you can do. But what really impressed me when it comes to Marine Serre and her upcycling skills was one of the pieces was actually a bed sheet. So this woman got a bed sheet, she made it into a dress, dyed it and embroidered it, and it came out looking like that. So yeah, that's just insane. Like, well done, well done. Well done. There are a few tartan pieces in this collection, kind of like they had this hourglass kind of silhouette and figure with the blazers and stuff like that, and also there were these high vis vests, and obviously in an apocalypse, high visibility, very important. So yeah, what I do like about Marine Serre is she stuck to the theme so perfectly, but at the same time, if you look at the garments and forget the theme, they're all very, very wearable, and they're all actually really nice. And then when you factor in, a lot of them are, most of the clothes are basically recycled, upcycled. Most of the accessories were upcycled, recycled, and they're not recycled and upcycled in a cheap way. They're actually recycled and upcycled in a very high level way. So that's something that, yeah, it's very impressive what Marine Serre does. But yeah, that was basically Marine Serre's fall winter 2019 collection, and that leads us into the next collection, which is her more recent one, her spring summer 2020 collection. When asked about this collection, Marine Serre actually said sustainable designs still have to be beautiful, and that goes back to what I was saying about a lot of people have this misconception that because something is upcycled or recycled, it can't be high quality, or, you know, it's ugly or it's disgusting. But what people need to remember is Marine Serre doesn't pick stuff that she's going to recycle from the floor. Marine Serre actually has a supplier who supplies her these recycled garments. She has people that actually select it. So they're not just picking up garbage, they're actually trying to find the highest quality thing that is recyclable that they can. So that's why these things come out so high quality and as good as they do, because they're actually sourced, as opposed to what people think. Like, I think when people think of sustainability, and I actually know a lot about this because now I've worked at 3 sustainable brands, but yeah, people source these products and these materials. People don't just like pick stuff off the floor. I thought that was good to note because a lot of people do have that misconception. But one thing I do like about the way Marine Serre designs her sustainable clothing and the pieces that are upcycled in her collections is, despite the fact that she elevates it so highly, the garments still have that character, and there's still something about the garment that hints to the previous life it had before she touched it. And I think that takes a certain level of really high skill to be able to achieve stuff like that. Now, this collection was actually titled Marine Noire. Now, I'm not French, so if I butcher that pronunciation, I'm sorry. But that translates into oil spill. Actually, that's the nice way of saying it. It more translates into like black tide. So yeah, that was kind of the theme of this collection. Kind of, you know, Marine Serre cares about sustainability a lot, and she wanted to focus on like climate change and all the oil spillages and stuff like that that has been happening and going on. And this collection was kind of a protest and raising awareness about that. So talking about the set, I remember the walkway was lit in true Marine Serre fashion. Everything has to look futuristic and apocalyptic. Fair enough. And it's actually important to note that this collection was actually a continuation of the last collection. So this was kind of the idea of kind of after an apocalypse, it's been some time, and now people are living through the long-lasting effects of the apocalypse. So now that's why there's black tide, everything's messed up, there's no clean water. That's kind of the idea and the theme of this collection. So obviously, to keep the aesthetic of this collection, majority of the looks were dark. The first looks were all black, recycled coats, boots, really nice black jackets, upcycled accessories as usual. Of course, we saw some Marine Serre ball bags in this collection made with upcycled chains, once again like the last collection. When asked about this collection, Marine Serre said the collection was an aftermath of the apocalypse in which a few people have survived the climate change. So yeah, that's like I was saying, the inspiration was kind of some time after the apocalypse. This is now where we're at, and this is kind of aesthetically what she's envisioning it would look like. But yeah, there was a lot in this collection, from like utilitarian jackets, capes. There were some jackets that had some zippers and zip pieces. In true Marine Serre fashion, of course, there were some pieces that were actually constructed from towels. The only thing I didn't like in this collection was she had some like tattoo shirts, and like, by now, come on. These things are so overplayed, like with Jean-Paul Gaultier, Margiela, Vetements. Like, how many people are gonna do it before we get tired of these tattoo shirts? But yeah, apart from that, everything else, I loved it. Amazing. There were more masks in this collection, and I think in this collection there was a collaboration with Oakley. So the glasses were actually a collaboration with Oakley. But another thing I didn't like in this collection, as amazing as it was I think Marine Serre relies a bit too much on her logo at this point, the moon logo, and it's becoming quite annoying where she just chucks it on every single thing. And I get it, because it will sell, because a lot of people want to identify with the brand or show other people, I know Marine Serre, I'm a fan of Marine Serre. So their way of doing that is by wearing pieces that are full of the branding. But for me, I just want to see silhouettes, I just want to see design. And I think having logos everywhere kind of takes away from how good some of the garments were. But that's just my personal opinion. Obviously, we all have different opinions. But yeah, in conclusion, I think Marine Serre had a really solid year. 2 amazing collections. The set was amazing. I like how she paid tribute to Karl Lagerfeld. Very, very sustainable designer. Very climate conscious. She's not one of those designers that just says it and uses buzzwords to try and win over people. She's actually really serious about sustainability, and that's commendable. Yeah, a lot I liked, but obviously I discussed what I didn't like. Too much of a reliance on the logos for one, and then 2, the tattoo shirts. Like, come on, it's done. But yeah, really solid year from Marine Serre, and I'm looking forward to what she does next. So next we're going to be talking about the brand Alyx. Now Alyx is an American brand that was started by someone named Matthew Williams. And Alyx kind of has this kind of fusion between techwear and tailoring aesthetic. So if you mix techwear and tailoring and met it in the middle, that is basically the Alyx aesthetic. Now I know a lot of you know what Alyx is. You're probably thinking, why are you explaining to us what Alyx is? But a lot of people that watch this channel actually are trying to learn about fashion, so it's not fair making assumptions that everyone knows what I'm talking about. And our goal as people interested in fashion, we want more people to be in fashion, so that's why I sometimes break down some of these things to a T. So bear with me if you're a fashionista and you're a fashion, intellectual. But yeah, what actually put Alyx on the map originally was their roller coaster belt design. So Matthew Williams got kind of the design of the belts you see at a roller coaster and kind of made it stylish and fashionable in a way, and that's kind of what brought the brand to the mainstream. Since then, there's been other things like chest rigs that Alyx kind of started that trend as well. That was also something that Matthew Williams got from military inspired design and then kind of made it more fashionable, and it became a trend. Also, Alyx is known for the collabs with brands like Nike and more recently Vibram, where they have like a loafer that can be fitted into kind of like this removable sole, which is quite cool. So yeah, Alyx does a lot of things. I've actually met Matthew Williams and I made a video about it, so if you want to see it, then I'll leave a banner above and you can click it. Now, the first collection of this year for Alyx was the Fall Winter 2019 collection. And first of all, what I really liked about Alyx and this collection in particular was the variety of garments. Just before Martine Rose, a mistake Martine Rose can make is she gets too stuck and limited with the themes, and then that means that the range of garments isn't as big as, let's say, what Alyx can do, because Matthew Williams has even said he doesn't really follow themes, but he tries to make the design and the aesthetic of the brand kind of evolve gradually from collection to collection. So there's always inspiration from the previous collection in the current collection. Essentially, that's how Alyx is run, by the words of Matthew Williams himself. Now, the first thing I noticed about this collection, it was really dark. There were a lot of black silhouettes. Not that I'm complaining, because you can see I like black, but yeah, that was the first thing I noticed. The big talking point as well was he introduced kind of like a new line of bags. So a lot of people were excited about this because Alyx is well known for accessories, like I've said before. So in the first look, Kaya Gerber was actually holding this kind of like boxy looking briefcase that everyone was going crazy for. And yeah, throughout the collection there are all types of different bags, some with even the Alyx strap and buckle, and people go crazy for those. So yeah, that was the first thing that I noticed that was also a big talking point. A lot of, when the collection came out, like in my group chats and stuff, a lot of people were talking about that. Now, because the roller coaster belt is kind of what made Alyx mainstream and big, sometimes Matthew Williams overdoes it and puts the buckle on everything, because I get it, that's what people want, it's gonna sell, but sometimes like just don't overdo it. But yeah, so a lot of the accessories, like the hats, had the Alyx roller coaster buckle, like a lot of the bags, like I said. But what I did find quite interesting is in this collection, Matthew Williams formulated kind of like more of a nylon plasticky material for the buckles, because the original buckle is metal and metal's heavy. So I was talking to Stephen Jones a while back, and Stephen Jones is like someone who designs, you might have seen him on Show Studio. He's that guy who does the panels with Mima Viglizio on Show Studio. So he is actually a milliner, so he makes headwear, and he was explaining to me how when he designed the Dior headwear, because Matthew Williams works on Dior hardware, for the Alyx buckle they had to turn the hat backwards to front because the buckle's too heavy because it's metal. So I was like, why didn't they just do that for Dior? Why didn't he formulate this plastic buckle that he used in this show for Dior? But I don't know the logistics behind it. But yeah, it was kind of cool to see this, because with this lighter weighted buckle, it meant that he can use this buckle in like many different ways, or more ways than he could when it was just metal and too heavy. Because think about it, if it's a weak garment, it's just logic, and you've got this heavy metal buckle, it's gonna bend the garment, damage the garment. So yeah, it's not practical. So I really like that, although that takes away from quality, because then a lot of people were complaining about how this new plastic buckle, it's very low quality and it's not rigid, so it breaks easily. So I guess that's one issue. To be fair, I just would prefer if you didn't rely on the aesthetic of the buckle so much. But yeah, just a big talking point in this collection. But yeah, not to talk too negative, there was obviously loads I liked in this collection. There were these camouflage coats, the coats with fur, these puffer jackets I really liked. But my favorite piece from this collection was actually the bonded leather jackets. And Matthew Williams, he talks about this a lot, how he uses this like bonding technique to bond the seams of the garment together, so you don't have these kind of like rough sew marks and stuff, and everything's really smooth and it has a really unique look to it. I know those will be very expensive and beyond my price range, but from a kind of like fashion nerd perspective, yeah, I really liked what he did with those. There are also a couple of collabs in this collection. So a couple of the outerwear was in collaboration with Macintosh, and obviously there was a footwear collaboration with Nike. So yeah, that's basically the full winter 2019 collection in a nutshell, and that brings us obviously to the spring summer 2020 collection. Now, going back to the spring summer 2020 collection, the first thing I can say about this collection was there was obviously a way greater focus on tailoring in this collection than I've ever seen before from Alyx. So let's say this is a SKU chart, and normally this is techwear and this is tailoring, and Alyx is normally here. In this collection, Alyx kind of shifted to this bit of the SKU chart. Now, the set of this collection was actually really nice. I don't like talking about sets too much, especially when they have nothing to do with like a theme or anything. But it was set in like this really nice bank. Had nothing to do with the theme of the collection because Matthew Williams doesn't really do themes. However, there's more of a focus on tailoring in this collection. So I guess kind of ties in like bank building, corporate building, more corporate looking clothes, more of a focus on tailoring. You get where I'm going with this. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about this collection is the footwear, because to be honest, every single thing that Alyx makes footwear wise is amazing. If I was rich, I would buy every Alyx collection, the whole range of footwear for men. Like just the boots, there were these heels with straps that for the women that were amazing. There were white boots, sneakers with a little Alyx touch, and then obviously some sneakers in collaborations with like Vibram and Nike and all those sneakers. And yeah, just the footwear range is amazing, and there's such a wide range of footwear as well. I think he's really mastered designing footwear, and I can tell when something is Alyx footwear. So he kind of has his DNA when it comes to designing footwear. It's just the shape. He just gets the shapes perfect every time. That's one thing I can never fault Matthew Williams for, and something that people don't talk about and is very underrated when we talk about Alyx is the footwear range. But yeah, in this collection we saw everything from the new bags. Again, he released another range of bags, similar, like some had the Alyx buckles and stuff like that. A lot of blazers, a lot of suits, a lot of overcoats. Obviously he's continued using that bonding technique that I was talking about earlier. Now, Matthew Williams is always known for being someone that when it comes to innovation and technology, he's always at the forefront in fashion. Once again, another underrated thing, because for some weird reason, that's probably why he's in this urban luxe category, because I don't even know what urban luxe means, but people think Matthew Williams is a streetwear designer. Blows my mind. But anyway, yeah, Matthew Williams is always at the forefront of technology and innovation in the fashion industry. So in this collection, he sourced the metal hardware that was used in this collection from the accessories, like things like the belt buckles and stuff like that, or bits of the bags from a sustainable factory. And also his dyeing process and his washing process used like minimal, almost zero water. And I've talked about sustainability so many times, but if you're unaware, like to dye a product takes so much water, and it leads to so much pollution because you've contaminated all this water and there's no proper way of cleaning it. So it's gonna have to go somewhere, and a lot of people, like, eventually it gets into rivers or people's drinking water, and it just causes pollution all over the place. So I'm very happy that, yeah, Alyx is very sustainably conscious in a lot of the aspects of the design of the brand. Also, when we're talking about innovation, a lot of the seams and pieces and parts of the garments were actually 3D printed as well. So I thought that was really cool. And once again, Matthew Williams is always at the forefront of innovation and technology in fashion. Like I said earlier, usual collabs in this collection: some outerwear with Macintosh, Vibram, and then Nike sneakers. Yeah, and also actually a big talking point in this collection was Matthew Williams' wife Jennifer was actually modeling one of the looks in this collection. So it was actually quite interesting when I was watching the show to see Matthew Williams' wife walking, and then the whole crowd was like clapping and everyone was cheering her on. That was like really sweet, and it's always good when you have those like happy moments in a show rather than just boring old show. Everyone walks seriously and then people clap at the end. Like, sometimes fashion shows and fashion week can feel a bit robotic, so that was a good aspect of the show, and I just thought I'd slide that in. But yeah, in conclusion, Matthew Williams had an amazing year. Once again, there's nothing bad I can really say apart from I think he relies on the roller coaster stuff a bit too much. But yeah, amazing collection. Footwear is flawless. I like that he has a focus on sustainability. Not as much as Martine Serre, but still has a focus on sustainability. He's at the forefront of technology and fashion. I mean, what more could you want from him? And he's had loads of successes. He's, you know, had a collab with Moncler Genius, which I'm going to talk about later in this video. He's also on a permanent design team for accessories for Dior Men's under Kim Jones. So the accessories team for Dior shows is Yoon Ahn, Matthew Williams, and then there's always like someone external they bring in to collab, but that's on a seasonal basis. But the permanent people are Yoon Ahn and Matthew Williams. So congrats to Matthew Williams, doing great work. And yeah, that was Alyx's year. So the next brand we're going to talk about is Fenty. Now, I actually wrote notes for this because I don't want to go off on a tangent or start ranting stupidly. So yeah, we all know who Rihanna is, like I've written in my notes, but if you don't know who she is for whatever reason, she's like one of the most famous pop and R&B singers, like now and maybe even of all time. But yeah, she's huge, like in terms of like everyone knows who Rihanna is. Like, come on, your grandma probably knows who Rihanna is. But yeah, she's also known for her business ventures. One of her really successful business ventures is Fenty Beauty. Then she's also been a creative director at Puma, and now of course she has her clothing line under LVMH called Fenty. Now, sticking to the script, this is where I need to stick to my script now. A lot of people think I hate Rihanna. I don't know why, just because like I said I don't like her fashion brand. But the thing is, I like Rihanna as a person. She's one of the nicest people from what I've seen. I don't know her personally, but from what I've seen, yeah, I like some of the stuff she did with Puma. I like her music. Her Fenty Beauty revolutionized the beauty industry. Let's not lie, because just from experience, like I'm black, so I have black family, black friends. Obviously, the black women that I know have always struggled when it comes to shades, because no one ever makes shades for them, and I don't know why. Because those people have money too, so there's always going to be a market for different shades. But yeah, until Fenty Beauty came and Rihanna actually tackled that issue of making sure that there were the right shades for every type of skin tone, especially for black people or people of color like Indians and other people of color, there weren't many options. And because Fenty Beauty made so much money and did so many sales, now suddenly all the other beauty brands have decided now they care about different colored women, and they want to you know, make products for different shades. So in that respect, in that regard, obviously Fenty Beauty revolutionized the beauty industry. Obviously a lot of people say the quality is good or bad. I don't really care, and I'll never know because I don't use makeup. However, in that respect, she revolutionized the beauty industry, and that can't really be taken away from Rihanna. So when it comes to like her beauty stuff, I respect it fully. I don't really have anything negative to say about her beauty brand. But the fashion brand, now the problem I have is this brand was created by under LVMH. So if you have a brand under a big company like LVMH, that means you have access to everything that LVMH has access to. So normally when you start a brand, I'm going to go into like specific details. It's based on my experience working in fashion. Now, when you start a brand in fashion, a high-end brand, you have no relationships. So let's say someone like who's established, a brand like Gucci, can buy the same fabric as you for £20 a meter, whereas you would buy it for £100 a meter just because you don't have a relationship with factories. So when you have a startup brand, there are so many added costs compared to like established brands just because you don't have a relationship. So you're spending more on garments, you're spending more on transporting your goods, you're spending more on everything. Every single stage of your production, you're spending more. You're spending more on like even creating the content on photographers, because with a brand like Gucci, a lot of photographers would rather take less money because they have Gucci on their portfolio, whereas if you're an up-and-coming brand, they're not really gonna, they're gonna get paid. So now you have this brand on the LVMH, and you're not like Craig Green, who had to start from scratch, or all these guys that didn't have the type of crazy funding or networks or links that obviously Fenty has, being on the LVMH. Now, with all of these opportunities and all these things at her disposal, what she released and produced for me, it didn't cut it. When I factor in everything available to her, how things that she's saving millions just because it's under LVMH, and they're gonna give her the network and the link so that they thrive, because ultimately they've invested in this brand, so they actually have a vested interest to make sure that this brand works. So they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that it works. So I mean, when I just consider all of that, and then I look at the clothes and every collection that Fenty has produced this year, and she's had like 3 or 4 drops, it just looks like elevated Zara. So it's not like terrible, it's not awful, but it's basic. So it's not like terrible, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. Like, it's good stuff. My camera actually overheated and cut off, but basically what I was saying was that considering everything that was available to Rihanna for Fenty, with it being under LVMH, it was disappointing that the best you could come up with was like an elevated Zara, but like a watered down Y Project and Balenciaga fusion. And I feel like in the society of today, people of color, people who are black, are, because of social justice and all this other stuff, they're immune to criticism. And it's not like my criticism comes from a bad place. My criticism is more like she's being compared, and she's in this urban luxe category with people like Martine Rose, Serre, Matthew Williams, Moncler Genius. It just, she's had 4 drops. Like, I just personally, I don't get it. I just don't get it. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Fenty's year, Fenty's 2019. The next fashion designer I'm going to be talking about is one of my favorite London designers, and this is Martine Rose. Now, Martine Rose is a London-based menswear designer. She has some Jamaican heritage, and her aesthetic and her designs are inspired by timelines in British culture and the subcultures that existed in those timelines. So that's why most of our clothes is a reference to ravers in the 80s, the businessmen in the 80s, different characters, different types of people you would see at certain time frames in British culture, which I just enjoy. Even like her ad campaigns are so British. Like if you go on her website and you see her ad campaigns, it's like some muscular guy sitting on a table, and in the background it says like sausage and chips and stuff like that. It's just, yeah, no, I love her stuff. I love everything she does. Martine Rose actually is also a former member of Fashion East. Now if you want to find out more about Martine Rose, I've actually made a video called Who is Martine Rose? So I'll leave an icon. All the videos I talk about in this video as well will be in the description below, but I'll leave an icon so you can click that if you want to find out more about Martine Rose before coming back to this video. I also reviewed her Spring Summer 2020 show, so I won't be talking about it in this video. And if you don't know what Fashionista is, I've made a video on that as well. Check the description below. So yeah, now obviously her second collection was her Spring Summer 20 collection, which I won't be talking about because I've made such a detailed video about that. So please, I urge you to go watch that video, then come back. I know this video is already long, but like, my videos are not really about, they're about entertainment, but I'm really trying to like put information across. So if you're really interested in like learning about this stuff, then definitely give it a watch. So yeah, the only collection I'll be talking about in this video is the Autumn Winter 2019 show, which was our first show of the year. And this show is actually interesting because it didn't have a runway show, so she actually opted out of the London Fashion Week schedule, and I think instead she showed at a showroom in Paris. Now what she said was actually that she didn't like that the social sphere and the expectation of designers is that they have to outdo themselves every single runway show, so she kind of wanted to get away from that. Whether that's true or not, that's between her and whoever else is on her team. It could be for financial reasons, I guess we'll never know. But in this collection, if you watch my video where I reviewed the Spring Summer 2020 collection, there isn't really much to say about this collection because this collection we just saw the usual characters that Martine Rose has been using forever. So she has the ravers that wear the flared jeans, and then she had flared jeans, the boxy loafers, sneakers, the football jerseys, of course, that ravers wear as well. She had some crop denim jackets that I really liked that had kind of like studs. She also had this piece that was actually a whole look inspired by Arsene Wenger, who was like the former manager of Arsenal. So once again, I said her brand is so British. I actually love it. She also brought some of her Jamaican culture and influence into some of the designs. So there were prints that kind of had things like ackee and saltfish and stuff like that. So that was quite cool. But yeah, not really much to say about this collection. It's kind of like Martine Rose, as much as I love her collections, the aesthetically is starting to get really, really samey. But because I like what she does, even though all the collections are really similar, I don't actually mind. So yeah, I guess that's Martine Rose in a nutshell, because there's no way I'm going to talk about the Spring Summer 2020 collection again. Once again, watch that video. But solid year, especially the Spring Summer 2020 collection. Amazing. I like how she, had a lot of political references, but also made it in a tasteful way, because a lot of people, when they protest in collections, it can kind of take away from the designs and the aesthetic of the clothes. So yeah, really solid year for Martine Rose. Now, last but not least, the longest section of this video, I'm talking about Moncler Genius. Now, Moncler Genius is one of my favorite things. If I was rich, I say this stuff all the time, but if I was rich, genuinely, I'd buy so much Moncler Genius. Now, Moncler Genius is, I think guys know what Moncler is. It's a ski wear brand. That's the heritage of Moncler. So they make these jackets with the down material on, which is supposed to keep you warm in skiing environments. Now, because Moncler, outside of skiing, they wanted to be more of like a fashion-y brand as well, kind of a brand that's fashionable as well as performance based. And Moncler was kind of fizzling out of kind of relevancy, I guess. So their CEO, I might butcher his name, it's like Remo Ruffini. I'm not sure if I said that wrong. If I said it wrong, then yeah, correct me on how to say it properly. But he had a really amazing idea called Moncler Genius, and he wanted this to be a creative division of Moncler where he could bring in really good creative directors that he liked to design capsule collections using kind of Moncler staples and silhouettes and adding their twist to it. And that was the start of Moncler Genius. So in the past, there's been collaborations with people like, Junior Watanabe, Craig Green, Simon Rocha, loads of people. And every year there's kind of a schedule for Moncler Genius, so you know kind of what collaborations are coming up for that whole year, and they have normally monthly drops. So yeah, some people are on the schedule every year, where some people like feature once. So that's why I know some people might get confused, but that's why like Craig Green has had so many collaborations with Moncler, or like Simon Rocha, whereas some people have just had one. So yeah, that's basically the best way I can summarize and explain what Moncler Genius actually is. So there's no confusion. It's not like normal Moncler. This is like capsule collections with different creative directors and designers. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to play a short video that includes every single brand that's going to be on the schedule and I'll be talking about next. So yeah. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Moncler Richard Quinn collection. Now Richard Quinn is British fashion designer, and he actually won the Emerging Womenswear Talent Award last year at the British Fashion Awards. So we're talking about the Urban Luxe category today, but yeah, so he won a different category last year for Emerging Womenswear. So yeah, amazing designer, studied fashion design at CSM. His design aesthetic is very, very bright, very floral. He likes to use a lot of floral prints. He's like the print version of Dries Van Noten. Dries Van Noten likes kind of like the floral, flowery aesthetic, but he's more embroidery and embellishments, whereas Richard Quinn is more amazing frilly dresses with prints, not really too many embellishments and embroidery compared to his prints. So yeah, that's kind of like his aesthetic. Of course, it made sense that for his Moncler collab, there'll be a lot of floral prints, and it would bring out the exuberant femininity that is very clear in his own collections. So I guess that makes sense, because that's the whole point of Moncler Genius. You bring your design aesthetic, mix it with our fabrics, and see what happens. So I really like this collection. Amazing. I like the way that Richard Quinn used the normal Moncler staples and jackets, and I also like the helmets. I'm not sure if that, because he had helmets in his autumn winter 2018 collection, so those could be the helmets from that collection, but I'm not too sure, so I'm not going to say for effect, but I think they probably are. Yeah, another part of the collection I really did like were the accessories. Like the bags were really nice. But yeah, that's the Richard Quinn Moncler collection. The next collection we're talking about is the Moncler Pierpaolo collection. Now, I always struggle to pronounce his name. I'm so sorry. Once again, it's me and Italian names, they just don't gel. His name, I think, is Pierpaolo Piccioli. Or Piccioli, I don't know, I'm sorry. But yeah, Pierpaolo, he is the creative director of Valentino. And also, this was also a collaboration with Pierpaolo, even though his name was like the main name that was used. A woman named Leah Khabib was also involved in the creation of this collection. And Leah Khabib is like a designer, and she's also like a really famous like model and actress, and she's Ethiopian. That's very important. I know you're thinking, why am I saying what country she's from? It's very important when we continue this collection. Now, this collection was probably, it's hard for me to say, but probably the best, one of the best Moncler Genius collections I've ever seen. So what they did was they used the Moncler down puffer silhouette and kind of transformed it into kind of like these ballroom gowns and kind of made dress versions of puffer jackets, which was insane. I can only imagine how hard it was to make the pattern for this. Like, I don't even want to think about it. It's just gonna make my brain swell. But yeah, this was actually amazing. And obviously there were also Ethiopian and African inspired patterns on the print. And this is where Leah Khabib came in, because Leah has a brand called Lemlem. And those were the brand, and it was this brand, sorry, that designed the prints to go on this collection. Now, I actually have my notes, a description of Lemlem. So Lemlem is actually an artisan-driven collection of women's, men's, children's, and home goods made entirely in Africa. Leah was inspired to create this brand following her trip to her native Ethiopia, where she met a group of traditional weavers who had no longer had a market for their craft. So it's kind of like a way where she could take very talented people in Ethiopia that didn't really have an opportunity and make a brand out of it and give these people an opportunity to continue doing what they do best. So very good initiative by Leah, and I like that they did collab in this collection. The collaboration with Lemlem was also a good reason, and it made it clear why all the models casted were actually black in this collection, because that was a big talking point. And Pierpaolo actually made a really touching statement, which I'm going to read. So when asked about this collection, Pierpaolo said, "I think inclusivity is not just a word. I really believe in the idea of working together in a way that gives you new points of view. And I was thinking, when couture was born, it was not meant to be for black women. It was just for white women. Magazines like Jet were not even allowed to borrow clothes. So this collection is to show that the dream of couture should be allowed for everybody, and that's why the idea of Leah worked so well." And yeah, I agree with everything in this statement. And yeah, it was just an amazing collection, and great work by Leah and Pierpaolo. Once again, Pierpaolo is very known for pushing diversity in luxury fashion where no one else does. So I can only commend him. Obviously, I don't know what his true intentions are. I'm not in his brain. It could be for even business reasons, but I'm hoping that he has a good heart, and it's actually just because fashion is a bit whitewashed. So yeah. Next, we're talking about the Moncler Genius collection that was 1952 plus Valextra. So this actually was Moncler 1952 and in collaboration with the brand Valextra, which I'll get into. So Moncler 1952 is another kind of like subdivision of Moncler, and obviously the 1952 signifies the year that Moncler was actually made. And the reason why this collection, in some places you might read it says plus Valextra, is because a lot of the accessories in this collection were designed in collaboration with Valextra, which is an Italian leather goods high-end brand, basically. So they make bags and leather accessories like card holders and everything, you know, leather accessories. So this was actually divided into a women's collection and a men's collection, designed by 2 different people. So talking about the women's wear, this was actually designed by a woman named Veronica Leone, and the inspiration for this collection was actually kind of like the diverse subcultures and, you know, just in general culture of London. And this is why there are a lot of like crystalline looking designs in this collection, kind of inspired by architecture and buildings in London. But I think the bigger talking point was actually the set. The set was amazing. It was like this kind of like glass box that the models were in, and there were like feathers falling everywhere, and it looked so artsy. And a weird thing that they added was the glass was in a way where the models couldn't see outside, but if you're outside you could see the models. So the models didn't even know like who was looking at them and stuff. I don't know why they did that, but yeah, I don't know what effect she was trying to achieve by doing that. But talking about the clothing was amazing. Like I said, Moncler Genius, it's not just like design whatever you want and just use our name Moncler. It's actually, you have to still use a lot of fabric elements and silhouettes of a traditional Moncler ski jacket. So this collection was amazing. I saw like some of these pieces that were half trench coats, half puffer jacket, kind of like cropped puffer jackets. Some jackets had like patchwork, some that would look like capes. Yeah, this was amazing. The garments themselves were just amazing, and of course I like the accessories that were in collaboration with Valextra. The bags were amazing. I'll go into the menswear collection, but in the menswear there was this one shoulder bag that they made with Valextra that was massive, and it just looked like really cool. I wouldn't wear it because it's not really practical. Like, why would you want such a massive bag? But aesthetically it was pleasing to the eye. And now going to the menswear, this was designed by Sergio Zambon, and this collection was kind of inspired by kind of like the city life. So a good example would be, an example that was given was the type of person that lives in LA is used to the city and the bubble of the city, but at the same time you're very close to nature, because around LA and California there's a lot of land and nature and reserves. So that's why this collection kind of had this kind of like hippie, naturey vibe. I wasn't really a big fan of this collection, like garment wise, is looking at the garments, because the women's wear is just way better. Like, they're making puffer trench coats and all this stuff, and then I look at the menswear collection, it's just like hoodies and just normal puffer jackets. Like, Moncler's already a puffer jacket, so we want people to reimagine the puffer jackets in different ways, and just making hoodies and stuff, yeah, just wasn't a fan of it, to be honest. But I did like I said, the huge crossbody bag that they made with Valextra. That was really nice. I also liked how a lot of the bags, the handles kind of were made out of down. So there's kind of like these down jacket handle straps. That was quite cool. Next, we're talking about Moncler Grenoble. Once again, another subline of Moncler. So Grenoble is more, so yes, Moncler is a ski wear brand, but Moncler Grenoble is more kind of like more technical, specifically performance based, and the focus of Moncler Grenoble is kind of being at the forefront of innovation in terms of ski wear and that sort of stuff. So it's very more performance based than the aesthetics with their collabs with designers like Pierpaolo. That'll be more aesthetics, and they're making dresses. And of course the word Grenoble, I don't know how to say it the French way, I'm sorry, I don't speak French, but Grenoble, the area, is actually kind of like in the French Alps, so it's a well-known skiing location. So it makes sense why they named it that. Skiing performance brand, like common sense. So yeah, this collection was about innovation and technical experimentation, and because of this, the outcome was very uncommon and unusual garments, but at the same time they still performed extremely well. And to me, I kind of see it as like very conceptual ski wear, because you could just buy a normal Moncler jacket, but this is very, very unique. Like the garments are unique, the textures are unique, but at the same time it still performs. So if you want something that's more elevated but at the same time still performance, you don't just want the boring old Moncler jacket, then Grenoble is definitely a good way to go. Because in the jackets I saw very crazy colors, and from the looks of it they use really interesting dyeing techniques to achieve the sort of prints that I saw on the puffer jackets. Also, what I really liked, there were these really interestingly shaped hats. I don't really know too much about skiing, to be honest, so I don't know if that's like a normal skiing hat, but it looked quite interesting as from an aesthetic point of view. They also made things like snowboard, and I think apart from obviously the amazing puffer jackets with all the different prints and stuff, the accessories were amazing. Like the gloves, they had really interesting gloves that are like down gloves made out of down, and then they also had these ski goggles that are really interesting. So yeah, once again, really interesting collection. Like, it's really hard to not like anything that Moncler Genius does, because these guys are just like re-transforming what we know as like normal Moncler, and I just appreciate the design and the effort that goes into making these garments. And especially because these things are very special because they're made in limited runs, obviously. So yeah, that's why I'm just a huge fan of Moncler Genius. Next, I'm going to talk about the Moncler Simone Rocha collection. Now, Simone Rocha is a very well-known designer. She's Irish, and she also has Chinese heritage. So a lot of her design pays tribute to being Irish. There's a lot of aesthetics from like Irish history in kind of like her design language, as well as she takes some aesthetic from her Chinese background as well, and mixes it into the two. And then also her designs have this kind of very feminine aesthetic, and she makes a lot of frilly dresses that people like. So yeah, if I was to describe Simone Rocha's aesthetic in terms of design, it's Irish heritage with a bit of Chinese heritage with a bit of voluminous frilly dresses. So yeah, that's Simone Rocha. So of course with this collection she brought her very feminine aesthetics and feminized, for lack of a better term, the normal Moncler silhouettes, of course. And this is why in this collection we saw an overload of like ruffles and embellishments all over the place. There were some amazing things. Some of the pieces kind of look like dresses made with down, the puffer jackets with feminine silhouettes made with down. There were things like capes made with down, and there was one I really liked that was kind of like red. It was dyed in this kind of like red color that I really liked. It's quite interesting. But also, when talking about this collection, Simone actually said that this collection was inspired by nature, outdoors, and girl guides protecting themselves against nature. And she said it was kind of the idea of camping and tents that almost becomes their protection. So this is why the aesthetic of this collection kind of had this outdoorsy feel. And going back to the capes that looked like tents. In fact, I just remembered one of the bags genuinely looked like a sleeping bag. Like, you know, the bag you would go camping with. So I thought that was quite interesting. Nice boots. But yeah, amazing collection. There's not really much I can say because I could just go on in detail with every single piece, but obviously I can't do that because this video is long as hell. Okay, so sorry for the abrupt change of scenery. I had to go home because my camera battery died, so I was like, yeah, can't be bothered to stay here. Might as well go home and charge my camera. But anyway, so next we are talking about the Moncler Craig Green collection. Now, I've actually made a video called Who is Craig Green? So if you want to find out more about Craig Green, then definitely check that video out. Link will be in the description or on the eye icon. But yeah, Craig Green, if you don't know who he is a British fashion designer. He studied fashion design at CSM, and also he's an alumni of Fashion East. So yeah, many Fashion East alumni in this video. Martine Rose, Craig Green, Simone Rocha, a lot. But anyway, he is known for his designs that mainly include a lot of deconstruction. So some people, for some weird reason, call him like the British Margiela, which it is what it is. But yeah, so Craig Green has actually had many collections with Moncler Genius. So like I said, some people kind of come back all the time, whereas some people kind of dip in and out per collection. And this collection in particular was all about like lightness, and everything being lightweight. So he made everything with the lightest down materials he could find, and it's also perfectly packable. So the reason why the jackets have those like wide flaps and straps is it's actually designed so that you can fold it into a perfect box, so it's very easy to travel with. And yeah, this is quite interesting. So from everything, the zippers to the fabrics to the weight of the down feathers, everything was made as light as possible so that it's easy to travel with. So yeah, massive jacket. You might think it's like really hot, but actually it's the lightest jacket ever. Next we're going to talk about the Alyx Moncler Genius collab. And with this collection, obviously I've talked about Alyx earlier in this video, so there's no point going through who Matthew Williams is or Alyx. However, obviously Matthew Williams brought his normal design language to the Moncler silhouette. So obviously we saw a lot of technical designs. We also saw quite a bit of tailoring, kind of similar bonded jackets to the ones that he would have at his own shows. We saw shiny puffers, we saw some nice boots. Alton Mason was actually seen wearing this kind of backpack vest that I thought was quite interesting. There were also some tights and tops that were actually made using sustainable materials, and like I said in the Alyx section of this video, Matthew Williams does take sustainability very seriously, and he's always doing sustainable things, but it kind of gets swept under the rug, maybe because he doesn't talk about it too much, because he's not trying to greenwash and market himself as like this sustainable pioneer. However, I do think it's good to note that Alyx is, a lot of it is made sustainably. Yeah, a lot of the puffers were actually garment dyed, and once again Moncler don't really use that that sort of dye to dye their products. And also there were these vulcanized waterproof boots, which obviously I love Alyx footwear from the shape. So yeah, I thought this was amazing. Once again, if I was rich, Moncler Genius, I would buy all of it. But the main talking point of this collection was actually a coated down jacket. And when asked about this collection, Matthew Williams said, "In some garments there is a material we developed for this project, which is made of coated down feathers. We took the most iconic thing for Moncler, the feather, which is something that is usually unseen, and made it seen by coating it." So yeah, really amazing collection. Once again, Alyx Moncler Genius. And yeah, that leads us into the next Moncler Genius collab, which was with Hiroshi Fujiwara. And Hiroshi is a Japanese streetwear fashion designer and a DJ. And how he came up was actually, he was kind of the person who's known for bringing hip hop to Japan. So that's how he kind of got involved in streetwear, and he has a good relationship with a lot of hip hop artists. He's also a prominent figure in the Harajuku fashion scene, and that's actually how he also came up, apart from obviously the hip hop music and stuff like that. Now, a lot of Japanese brands, especially like streetwear, they take this inspiration, this kind of like Americana aesthetic, and this was no different. Hiroshi wanted to design a collection based on the Americana aesthetic, so we saw a lot of American varsity kind of designs. We also saw a lot of military inspired stuff from the puffers and stuff. And yeah, this collection was alright. What I didn't like was there's too many massive bold logos and text that said like Hiroshi Fujiwara and like fragment and stuff. It was just like a bit too much. So yeah, this is one of the weaker collections out of all the Moncler Genius collections that I've seen, from like Pierpaolo to the women's Valextra one, Alyx, Richard Quinn, Simone Rocha, all those ones, like they just put this one to shame essentially. And this leads us to the Moncler Genius Palm Angels collab. And this collection was actually designed by Francesco Ragazzi. I, once again, don't know how to pronounce it, I'm sorry. But he's the creative director of Palm Angels. And he comes from a fashion communication and photography background. And he actually started Palm Angels in 2011. And he kind of started it because he wanted it to be a photographic documentation of LA skater culture. So yeah, it's kind of amazing how Palm Angels went from something that he just wanted to document skater culture to now this like big luxury brand. It's quite crazy. But for this collection in particular, the inspiration was kind of that of a vandalized art gallery, and that's why it had loads of different colours. If you look at the hats, a lot of the accessories had paint splatters, the bags were multicoloured. So yeah, a lot of the elements in this collection did show the theme quite clearly. But yeah, there was so many different pieces, like, and because the collection was so overly colourful, you kind of get lost in all the colours, and it was kind of chaotic, but there were some gems and there were a lot of pieces that I did like. I'll put them on the screen, the looks that I did like. And the last Moncler Genius collab we're talking about is the Poldo Dog Couture collab. So obviously Poldo Dog Couture is a, well, not couture brand, but they make high-end clothing and accessories for dogs. And obviously Moncler's collab with them to make kind of like puffer jackets for, and like down gloves for dogs. So nothing special, but apart from the fact that it's a bit crazy that people would actually spend £400 or more on a jacket for their dogs, like, you must be seriously rich to be able to do things like that. So anyway, in conclusion, Moncler Genius had the biggest range. I think when looking at all these brands as a list, from Martine Rose to Marine Serre to Fenty to Alyx, and then Moncler Genius. Moncler Genius achieved the most. There was the most stuff to see. So I don't know why Moncler Genius is even in this category. Once again, Urban Luxe is confusing, but what I will say is, yeah, just if Moncler Genius doesn't win, then something's clearly wrong. And if Fenty wins, then it will be clear clout chasing, and I'll lose faith in the BFC, because like Fenty has had like 4 drops in its history. Like, why is it even, like, if you just compare like Moncler Genius to Fenty, it's like a no contest literally. But yeah, on that note, comment down your thoughts, tell me who you would like to win the award. Obviously like this video if you liked it, subscribe to my channel, turn on your post notifications to get notified when I post again. And yeah, follow me on Instagram at Fashion Roadman if you want to support the channel financially. The Patreon is in the description below. And yeah, stay tuned for more videos.